everyone. This is Nina Collins. I'm from Hello Revel. This is actually our first time doing this on the Revel platform. So Nina Collins, the founder of The Wolfer, we recently merged with Revel. We are an events and community platform for women over 40. What's really unusual and fabulous about Revel is that it's a place where women can go on and create events for themselves. So you create a profile really easily, and then you can literally in 2 minutes create a coffee gathering or a hike or a book club, or really anything as esoteric as you could possibly imagine. You could create a, I don't know, macrame interest group. And then we also have a groups feature where women can talk to each other and communicate. So we're very fortunate today for our first Revel Wolfer Zoom to be interviewing Mei Xu. Mei Xu is an incredible entrepreneur and the author of a recent book called Burn. She's the founder of the Chesapeake Candle Company. This is a book, the subtitle is How Grit, Innovation, and a Dash of Luck Ignited a Multi-million-dollar Success Story. Mei, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Nina. I know you for such a long time, but this is the moment I've been waiting for, and it's made even better with the fact that your work and your team has been recognized, that there is such a interesting age for women over 40 and 50, that not only are they continually thriving, that they can enjoy life even more and make even bigger contributions. So congratulations again.
Thank you. No, I feel the same way. I really do. So you have an incredible story. I mean, some of the parts of your book that I actually enjoyed the most were the beginning parts set in China and the way you talk about your parents. And I was really moved by the way you talk about the integrity of your parents. And I don't know, I just thought it was really beautiful in the history of communist China. So for our listeners, Mei grew up in China, moved here in 1991, I believe, when you were 19, right? Right after college.
I was a little bit older. I think I was 24, right out of college. And it was an unfortunate event that brought me here because of Tiananmen Square. Because of the year I graduated in 1989, in July, all the students graduating that year cannot live in the big cities. They need to be away from the potential of gathering and protesting. So I, instead of staying in Beijing, and work continuously for the World Bank, which I had been working on the side when I was a student to help with the interpretation and translation work. I was sent to look after minerals in northern China, clearly not doing what I was trained to do for 10 years, which is diplomacy and foreign studies. And I was fearing that I would lose my language capability. And, it's true. I had just recently got to see my mother-in-law in Italy. She was a great English speaker, but because 1.5 years, she had not really connecting with people speaking English as a first language. So now she forgot most of them. And it's exactly about 1.5 years. So I do feel, people appreciate how difficult it is to learn a language, because it's not like English, it's not like literature or science. It's a really living thing. So I decided to quit in 1989 and came to the US to pursue my graduate degrees.
And you had wanted to really be a diplomat. You thought you would have a career in diplomacy, but you ended up working in a job that I don't think you loved that much, and you were married to your first husband. So tell us how you came up with the idea of Chesapeake Candle. It's really amazing. You were so young, you were brand new to America. It's an incredible story.
Well, again, I think maybe people can relate it more. It was at a time where I was trained, just like many people. They went to college thinking they'll be a lawyer, they'll be a doctor, they'll be a designer. And life would have been very different if I could continually work for the World Bank. I was enrolled in University of Maryland. The reason I chose that school was because it's very close to DC and the headquarters of the World Bank. But I graduated in the year 1992, which is the beginning and the middle of our first war with Iraq for Kuwait. And the World Bank received majority funding from the US government. When the US government is in an active war, there is a lack of funding, particularly to finance new hiring. So normally during the war time, we have a hiring freeze at the World Bank. And again, I graduated into this kind of a challenge, I would say, right? Just like students graduating last year in our country, around the world, they're not prepared to be told that we don't have any hiring because nobody's working from, from the home as a new hire. So I was told by the World Bank, go find something to do. When we are back hiring, we will call you.
Mm.
And because of my resignation in China, it would be impossible for me to consider that as an option to return.
Mm-hmm.
But for a foreigner, not with papers for work, green card or working paper, it's really hard to find a good job. So I found a job that would sponsor me to work in New York. It was an export of high-tech medical equipment to China. There was some relationship with China because at that time in the early 90s, the Chinese government realized that their hospitals are in dire position to get more equipment to diagnose things. The CT scans and ultraviolet ultrasound machines, they don't manufacture at that time. So they are bringing them in from Acuson, from Space Labs, those bags that can go on and down, and the CT scanner. So I was hired to basically coordinate with the manufacturers such as GE and to help the Chinese hospitals to get loans for from the Import-Export Bank here in DC. So my job was actually very much pushing papers, and it was not engaging. And it was important, but my personality was more like this. I'm very engaging. I'm out and about, and I like to be supportive and helpful. And I don't feel I was really that needed other than pushing more papers. But mostly I was also isolated in New York. I was away from my then husband, David, who's working in DC, and I have to commute every weekend to DC by train. So I was new there. And the only bright side in hindsight was that I was put in a hotel next to Bloomingdale's.
I was about to say, I know what's coming. You got really into Bloomingdale's.
That was a license to shop, although it's window shopping. And I don't know if you remember when I talk about growing up, there was really nothing in China. There was no department stores, there was no brands. What they sell is very basic items like shoes, and there was only one style probably, or a jacket, again, another style, and everything is locked away in a cabinet that you cannot touch.
Wow.
So when I went to New York and
that's so interesting. I hadn't really thought about that. I mean, obviously it's really changed in China now, I would assume. I've never been to
they're the opposite now, but yes, everything was locked away. There's a counter where they put things to show you, and behind me, like where this bookstore bookshelves will be where they put like some eye cream, no eye cream, just cream in general, and then they lock it in a glass door, and they have a lock.
Wow,
and
so you had grown up never really having a shopping experience. So suddenly you're in New York and you're next door to Bloomingdale's.
And can you imagine? So this is like a bird being let out of a cage for the first time. The bird is flying towards the brightest spot, the beautiful spot. So every day I would eat very quickly because I would be by myself. And then I would pretend I'm going shopping there. And all these ladies that spray perfumes at you, and most people hate that. And I would say, what are you selling today? Tell me. So I was completely making friends with them because then I can get some free samples sometimes. I can't afford a bottle. I was making $19,000 a year.
Wow.
So you can imagine after paying rent and some travel back and forth.
Yeah, the commuting. Yeah, must have killed you.
$2,000 for a student with a graduate degree is kind of low, but I'll take anything. That's what the immigrant mentality is, right? You just want to fit in and you just want to work your way up. So I would not be able to afford anything, and then I would always go to the second floor and goes up. And the first thing I noticed that I love the second floor. It's usually the designer floor. It's just impeccably displayed. And what really drew me is this more of a menswear aesthetics that combines their fabric, but with more of a tailoring to showcase a woman's body. And the two designers I remember were Donna Karan and Calvin Klein. You know, they are really at their peak in the 90s, and women would wear their black, usually Old Navy jacket with such confidence. And I just admire how my dream has always been using menswear fabric because they're more masculine and they're higher quality because they show texture better, and yet with a very considered, tailored look. So I was always, wow, this is beautiful. And then as I walk up each floor, it get more and more traditional until you end up on the top floor. And it was literally a grandma's home because the furnitures were very floral patterned and very dark. And they have those very ornate legs with gilded touches. And you would see the tableware, a lot of floral again, very Laura Ashley-ish. And I'm just asking myself, I said, those women that I saw on the street with their Donna Karens, so striking, so simple, yet powerful. Why would they want to go back to a house like their grandmother's? It's so stale. It's so backward. It's so uninspiring. So every night, we don't have at that time iPhones, so you have to literally glue yourself to the wall. And I said, David, I don't understand. I see this blah, 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 and I see this. And finally, he got tired of hearing me complaining. And he said, have you ever thought maybe with your taste, you are so good with all the art and culture, sort of, because of the way I was brought up in the boarding schools to be trained as a diplomatic corps, you have to learn about the Renaissance art, all the different influences and the masters here and there. So he said, why don't we do something with it? Because you keep telling me there is a gap between fashion and home, where fashion has moved forward and has shown a very clean and contemporary style. Home is stuck. And don't you think there might be people interested in doing something like that? And that's where I think his entrepreneurial sort of gut feeling, he may not know what I'm talking about, but he sees
You recognized a moment that you were really seeing. It was really the beginning of kind of a home decor revolution, right? I mean,
right. It's just, if you recall, this is also the background with which Michael Grave, who was
I remember he was huge then.
So Michael Grave, such a very thoughtful but also contemporary modern architect, started collaborating with Target.
That's right.
Decided to design beautiful blooms and beautiful coffee
posters and coffee urns and
right, with this more artistic architectural influence. And people suddenly realized that maybe our house doesn't have to look like exactly the same as our parents, and there's something about simple shapes and broad but beautiful colors that can bring out some of the boldness that you often see in Scandinavian countries, right? If you remember, here looks
the cleanness of Scandinavia,
right? And you highlight the natural wood, the blonde wood. You don't paint all these mahoganies just for the sake of it. So it was at the beginning of that revolution, and I was at a perfect moment to witness the gap, because to me, everything is equal. I'm not brought up with that traditional look or the contemporary look. To me, they're equal values. I'm not sold on either. And I see the gap. So anyway, my ex-husband basically was the one that said we should do something, also because the broader global theme, which is the trade between China and the rest of the world, is really on the rise. And I have to say,
open up. Yeah.
The two countries were in a honeymoon. There was so much positive sort of people-to-people communication, and there was a lot of positive development at that time. And his thought was, why not be an agent to connect those culture and to export and import sort of countries. So that's what we thought. We didn't think about any particular product. We just think we should do something in the home business where none of the big companies are involved already. So we both quit. And that is the beginning in, I think it was in May, we both quit in 1994. Basically 1.5 years into my working in New York, I moved back and I never looked back. I never looked back at a corporate job from 9 to 5. That is a fact.
Yeah, I've been telling people, actually now my job at Revel is the first time, because I've also always been an entrepreneur. This is the first job I've had since I was 23. So I completely,
Yes.
it's really interesting.
Well,
So
you are fortunate. Yeah.
how long did it take you from when you quit to when you settled on candles? I'm curious.
Well,
Like,
that's 6 to 8 months, I would say. So even before we moved back, I moved back, I started approaching my friends. As you recall, I was trained as a diplomat since 12. And there are many friends that went into diplomacy, but a lot of them also ended up in foreign trade because you need both skills, right? You need the skills of understanding other culture and particularly the language. So they become involved in foreign trade. And as soon as I reached out, they started to give me ideas. So it took a few months to really get a lot of samples as well as contact for manufacturing. I went back to China in the summer and I finalized the samples that I can receive in the US. So it's about half a year that I started to see the shape of maybe 10 categories we can consider. One of them, you will laugh, is the silk flowers. So any of those flowers that look real, but they're fake.
I actually really like fake flowers. I know that most people don't, but I have some. I have some fake tulips here.
Yeah. To me, they're particularly if you have the kind of home where you travel a lot and you can't water them, or it's a seasonal place. How else can you bring some life inside?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I buy fresh flowers a lot too, but they're occasionally really beautiful fake flowers, I think.
And I think those were the time when they were very artistically made. There were a whole tree that is, it's very hard to grow those fern trees. So long story short, that was category. So there are 10 of them. And candle was the smallest, most sort of just insignificant because they're so small compared with the trees. And, I have fans that are, traditional Chinese paper fan with ink calligraphy that are so gorgeous. So I was always thinking, wow, these are beautiful. I really like them. And I don't understand the candle as much because I never grew up using candle other than when we ran out of lights or power. But it was a very ornate candle in a round shape that has patterns on the outside. It looks like a stainless glass when you burn them.
Pretty.
That's kind of interesting. I guess people buy them for Christmas because it has some Christmas sort of theme there. So we brought about 10 different categories into a van and drove all the way to Charlotte, North Carolina, because by the time we realized we need to attend a trade show, it's already too late for most of the shows in Atlanta, New York, California. So we drove in September to this small show. We rented a 10 by 10 booth and we didn't even know how to display. So we rented a table, we have for white sort of curtains behind, and you have probably seen my photos on the book, where inside the book where I have, silk flowers in the back, some cushions in the, in the back hanging. And I have the candles in the front because they're the smallest, right? So I have to put them on the table. And one day into the show, we were so surprised. Half of the order, if not more than half of the order, has something for the candles.
Wow.
And we started calling the office. We have one assistant because our office at that time is also a warehouse. It's very close to University of Maryland. I have a student that is a full-time student that worked for me. And I said, can you ship those orders so they can get it earlier? And maybe they can still reorder for the season. So that's what we did. We were so excited because there's so many orders.
You know what this makes me think of? Sorry to interrupt you, but it's how being an entrepreneur. I was thinking this because my son is doing a business this summer for the first time. He's 21.
I remember you say about that.
Yeah, it's kind of how flexible you have to be, how kind of nimble, how you have to be really open to it not being what you thought it was going to be, right?
Right. You have to pivot, right? Once you realize
all the time, and you have to accept that you're going to do things that are going to be mistakes, and then you change. And,
exactly. And you're here because what happened was that all the orders almost have some candle component. We sold so much. Tell your son about it. We had an order size of $50,000 for 5 days. 50,000. Most of the orders were like 200-300, no more than 500.
Wow.
So they're wholesale, by the way, right? So they're low. My candle was probably $8 a piece, and you got to have a lot of candles to fill a $50,000 order. But it was like, we cannot believe, we are so fortunate. It's still one of the biggest break for me in the sense of my business at Mei. It's much harder because I'm not wholesaling, I'm retailing.
Yeah, I understand.
And I'm not in front of ready available consumers who say, I'm here to buy, I have to pay. You know, so my product also, now that I think about it, the best timing possible. Candle was on the rise in the 1990s, and candle always sell the best in the fourth quarter because people start burning them due to the weather,
in the fall,
as well as gifts, right? So it was there, gift shops, independent gift shops, and
great gifts. I love. In fact, I don't think I ever told you this, but in my family, there's a joke. I'm very hard to buy presents for, and the safe present is always a scented candle.
Yeah, you would never say, you know, oh, I have too many candles.
No, I love candles. I need lots of candles.
Just like I would never say to my husband, I have too many jewelries, honey. I don't think you need to buy me anymore.
Well, let's pivot a little bit to Mei. So basically, Mei, grew Chesapeake Candle into a huge successful business. You did it for 25 years, I believe. You sold it sometime
I sold it
5 years ago.
So Nina, I don't know if I told you this, but I remember you were one of the last person I saw before COVID back in New York. I had breast cancer. I discovered breast cancer in 2016, end of 2016. And I then had a surgery in early 2017, and it was needing both chemo and radiation after the surgery. So at that time, I was approached by a private equity firm to propose buying us. And I said, well, this is actually interesting because I didn't think I would sell at this age, but now that someone's interested, I'm not ready to sell it to a private equity because I don't want them to keep selling it. I would rather put a process together, which means I'm going to put it for people who are interested to look at it, not just one-on-one with the private equity. So that's what I did. Because of my condition, I was going through 6 months long chemo treatment, very intense.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I was negotiating without my hair. I was wearing the hair pieces, and it makes me sweat when I was doing the management meeting in July, in the middle of July. I remember very well. And I was doing all the work off hour so that the book for the presentations are all done on the weekend with my team. But I think that actually helped me gone through this process or this treatment because I have something else really pressing on my mind. And eventually we sold to Newell Brands, which is one of the biggest brand Newell Rubbermaid. They own Yankee Candle, they own a big chunk of what's called home fragrance industry. So we become a fourth brand. They have Yankee, Woodwick, and an Italian brand, Milleflori, based in Milan, and then Chesapeake Bay. So now they are part of, Chesapeake Bay is contributing in a big way because our contemporary style and our wellness focus for them.
It's wonderful. What an achievement. And I should also mention to our listeners that Mei was invited, you participated in Obama had a big summit, I can't remember when, on jobs creation.
2012, yes, 2012. It was amazing. People always think about, job creation or manufacturing as Donald Trump's first sort of priority, but it really got started in 2012 by Obama and President Biden, because he was also in the same forum. It was in January 2012 when my factory in Glen Burnie, Maryland finally got set up, but I was really delayed by almost 6 months because of the red tape. And I think there's someone from Wall Street Journal that covered the challenges of opening manufacturing in the nation's backyard at the Capitol. All the red tape, and there's no actual book about how to go about getting permits. So I was invited along with the CEOs of Ford, Intel, and Rolls-Royce, who manufacture engines, 11 of the big brands that basically have moved job back for manufacturing. Wow. And I was the smallest, because what I want to illustrate is even small companies at some point need to bring manufacturing here. Now we hear this a lot, right? We hear how important it would have been to produce ventilators here,
Yeah.
or even masks, or better, suits to protect nurses and doctors during
Yeah,
COVID. Now
absolutely.
we say, why aren't we making them?
Right. Right. How great that you did that. So now I want to tell our listeners about what you're doing now, which is so
Yes,
amazing. I mean, may I ask how old you are? Do you say how old you are? I'm
of
52.
course, of course. I am 53.
Oh, so we're the same age. Awesome.
Right. Yeah.
And so you don't want to retire. You feel like you've got tons of energy left. You're obviously not someone who's going to retire anytime soon. So now you've started.
Yeah, I don't know how to spell retire because I would be tired by the time I finish spelling it, and I'm not very easy to stay still. No, I mean, I was not going to write a book. That, Nina, I want to tell you. That's the one thing. It took a long time. My husband said, you have to write it. I said, no, I don't want to write it. I'm just going to start doing stuff like on the board, this. It was because he really made sense to me. He said, it's not.
This is your new husband, not your first husband.
That's my relatively new husband. My husband, Alessandro, who is a professor of economics, and he said, it's not for you. You do this because there are people that will look at you and say, if she does it, I can do it too.
Absolutely. He's so right. It's because
and it's not that Mei is a selfish or egomaniac. Think about how much you're going to say to women who never thought about setting up factories. Think about what you can say to immigrants who come here and never thought they can start a new trend because you see something that other people may not realize. Use your experience to benefit other people, not to.
So
No,
completely
right.
true. May's book is called Burn, for anyone who's joined us late. How grit, innovation, and a dash of luck ignited a multi-million-dollar success story. And you are so right. You have to write a book like this and share your story, because otherwise, who will know? And how will women coming up be inspired and feel confident? And no, it's super important that you wrote this.
And how can they know? Maybe they can build factories, right? They can go to the moon. They can be an astronaut. They can be coders for the next generation machines, and they can build factories.
Absolutely.
I did it, so I enjoyed it so much. I still have fun talking to people about manufacturing, because it's not what, and that's another thing in our countries. I think people look down upon blue collar workers, particularly manufacturing, and that's not the case in Europe. That's not the case in Italy or Germany or even Japan, where people take pride and they go to schools for that. And that is where, that's a dialogue I want to have, is to
That's
move.
an interesting point. I hadn't thought about that there's so much complaining that we don't manufacture enough in America, but there is a bit of a stigma to being a blue collar.
I mean, I wouldn't think that I send my children to Ivy League. I don't have one to Ivy League. I'm just saying, people don't say, I really want my Johnny to go to work for a Ford at assembly line, right? Now it's all, can we just go to somewhere where he doesn't need to get up? If he get up, he get paid just to show up on Instagram. That's what we get proud of. We're not getting proud if he's walking and standing on his feet for 8 hours and be putting a screw on something. So, but there is something to be proud of that, right? And there are the education also has to allow that to flourish. And you and I know, with the creative type, we want to use our hands. Using our hands inform us of what better ways to improve the process.
Making things is incredibly satisfying. Yeah, it's a
very satisfying
learning process, and it's
and when I moved manufacturing here, the designers, for the first time, they're not designing in the vacuum. They see some of their design is causing too many repetitive sort of back and forth that it becomes detrimental.
We've just frozen for a moment. Hold on. I don't think it's my internet. Oh, Mei, I've lost. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I continually hope we will, as a nation, talk about making things versus
that's a
buying stuff, buying things. Right.
So let's talk about your new company. And also I have to congratulate you. The title is so clever. So your name is Mei Xu. The new company is called Yes, She May. And And it's a platform basically by women for women. It's a shopping platform. Am I correct in saying
Yes,
it's
yes, it's an
e-commerce?
e-commerce,
You
right?
go on and you can look at all sorts of fabulous things, clothing, purses, but tell us what the idea behind it was, because it really is an act, it seems to me, of kind of generosity on your part. You're trying to take what you know and
Yeah.
support female entrepreneurs.
Well, when I stepped down, and remember I said I don't know exactly what am I going to do, because my life plan was I stepped down in my 60s. I didn't know I stepped down before I turned 50, right? So that was like, oh, come on, I would do something. But I was started to talk to people in events like this. I would be invited to talk, let's say, to a wealth management client for Goldman Sachs about women's entrepreneurship, or I would go talk to, I don't know, a venture meeting about why investing in women is important. Mm-hmm. And many times women will come after and talk to me about how did I decide this is the right moment that I quit my job. This is the right moment that I need to go out my limb to set up inventory, or this is the moment I need to go to another country to source versus get stuck with another country. So I realized my success in consumer good is actually exception, not rule. Most women-owned business, Nina, is very small.
Yeah.
It's under 250,000, right? So when you are this small, there is no other way to really sustain or to grow, because you either grow or you die.
No, that's what I struggled with the Wolfer. I thought, like, we're tiny and I can't grow unless I team up with someone else, or
right.
investment.
Because of the minimum you need to invest in social media, in all the content generating and engineering. By the end of the day, you're not going to even make
Can't do it on your own. Yeah.
So I said, well, one of the biggest challenge for consumer product brand is the scaling, is figuring out where to find what product, who to partner with. Even if you're wanting, even if you have great product, Target can't work with a small business like that. Their minimum order to start is $1 million. So they can never really, there's a big gap between what most women business can produce and what most big retailers can buy. So you never see them, right? And you see, all the same names all the time. And when women finally can get a break, usually they are sold to another company. They're not like me on my own, already working with Target, already working with all the major companies, because I have the benefit of a supply chain on my side. I own the manufacturing from day one. I own that relationship. And that's what financially and risks-wise spread my risk, right? I spread risk with the manufacturing so that we both benefit from my growth. But you need to have that give and take. So I said, maybe I can help consulting for them. On the front end, show them to Target and other retailers, because they're looking for innovation too. And maybe on the back end, I can direct them to work with certain suppliers who's also looking for opportunity. And I was thinking about doing that when the pandemic started. And what I heard from many women founders is that they are in Brazil or in Peru, and they are selling in the past to mostly tourist spots, right? Those souvenir stores or shops in the main street, and it's all closed. So all of a sudden, all the small retailers are canceling orders. They're all canceling orders, and they don't have any customers. So that's when I pivoted, like you mentioned about your son. I never want to be a retailer in the beginning, because I'm not a front person. I never run a store in my life. But this seems to be the right direction. We go online, and I ask them to do drop ship so that there's no back and forth shipment, right? They can ship directly to you, Nina, from Italy. That's what some of our vendors are.
So you created a website, you have all these different brands,
right?
The sales go through you, but the orders go directly from the manufacturer.
Right. And the reason we do that is because we can do the technology part. We do know how to. So let's say you have a website, or your son has a website. It's already a website, so we don't need to create any assets or let him labor to send me information. We can just connect on the back end.
Yeah.
So everything he has, I have. If I sell anything, he sees it right away, and he just ship it, right? So we really are the ones that bring the consumers and elevate their marketing. That's one of the biggest story. I don't know if you see that we give a lot of space to storytelling. So unlike other brand where it's all about, this look, that look, we talk about, oh, this bag is from Alexandra de Curtis. And she has a goal to make the lightest bag possible because she's tired of schlepping heavy bags around London. And she came up with this design that get rid of all the hardwares inside and the side pocket. So her bag is as light as a latte. She said, I want a bag that is as light as a latte, but it's beautiful because they use two-sided leather. And you have an inside look. The outside is bright red or, pink. It's incredible. I don't know if you see it.
Yeah, no, they're beautiful. The stuff on your site. So
oh my God. I said, Alexandra, this story is unbelievable. So I ordered it myself because I also, my shoulder, I think is already one side higher, one side lower because of the back.
My mother used to admonish me for carrying too much on one side and talked about how bad
and then you put a computer there, you put 2 books there to give people by the time, and sometimes I put candles. I tell you because I want to give it to them. So your shoulder. Anyway, so what happened is that in the beginning, I heard a lot of no. People say, what? I always do wholesale. You need to buy the product, you keep it, and you ship it. I said, you know what? I say no to you for a good reason.
I don't want to carry all that inventory.
Exactly. You want to keep everything in your control, in size, in colors. And then you can replenish according to the total point of view, not just what Mei sold, but what other vendors in Italy,
how are you finding the brands? How many brands do you carry and how do you find them?
Oh my God, we have to say no to a lot of brands who just from design perspective, it's just not gel, right? Or it's too low in price point in that if they ship a $20 face cream from Turkey to here, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, right? I've noticed the price points seem to be, it's kind of the lowest price thing on your site is around $100. Is that fair to say?
Well, we have stationaries from a great vendor. By the way, I just want you to know, I was going to tell you this, but I really want to invite your women authors to also be on our site. My book is on the site. I want to do more.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
we'll definitely have to talk. I was going to tell you also, I want to invite you. We're having a launch party, a Revel launch party in DC.
Oh, wow.
28th, and I have to make sure you're there. And we're having it at the home of the Austrian ambassador too. It's going to be really fancy.
Wow. No, that's perfect.
I'll send
you. Absolutely. So authors, painters, they can all bring their, and any women founders, if you feel this is the right sort of platform for you, please let me know. Nina knows how to find me. Actually, I can give it here, Mei, MEI at Yes She May. So I would be very happy. We're always looking for new ones. And a lot of it, Nina, is our background, right? So I've been in the business for a long time. A lot of the, contact would say, oh, if you're doing this, do you mind if I send you this designer? Take a look. So how organically we actually just grow like that. And on top of that, now people know from the South Korean embassy, they want me to give them seminars so that we can train some of the women in Korea that want to sell their product too. So I'm doing some of the seminars with them, with some Santander Bank in London, for example. So it's very organic. There's no massive campaigns because I can't onboard them fast enough. Usually I onboard one brand a week because we want to give them
one brand a week. One brand a week is a lot. My God.
Yeah.
All right. So everyone should check out May's book Burn, which is super inspiring and be a great gift for any young entrepreneurial minded woman in your life. And B, everyone should go to yesshemay.com. That's YESSHEMAY.com to check out.
Yes.
Buying fun things. I want to ask you one last question before we go, Mei. I want to ask you, what personal quality do you like best about yourself?
I think I'm very optimistic.
Nice.
I think I always look at the best case scenario. My husband says sometimes I'm too optimistic, but
Oh,
to
I
me,
think that's a
what
great quality. I think I'm also fairly optimistic too. I think I usually think like, what's the worst that can happen? You do it. If it doesn't work, you pivot. That's kind of
well, it's still better than me. I'm the kind of person that sometimes before I'm successful, I behave as if I'm successful. So I don't know if that makes sense. I just don't let sort of fear dominate me. I'm not
yeah.
a person.
I agree, and I think that is actually a real when I was younger, I feel like I had a lot of fear, and I don't feel that way anymore. Actually, I want to ask you one more question then, because I'm curious.
But
What
I
do you?
think this is because of our age. I just want to bring it up. I
Well,
think we are
I was about to say
at
my
the
next question.
children confident age. I'm
Yes.
telling Courtney, she's younger, so I'm telling them it
Yeah.
really gets better once you're over 50. It's like they say there's a U-shaped trajectory of your happiness that your 30s and 40s, you are at the bottom of the U, and then you started climbing out of it in your 50s.
I agree. There's a real sense of freedom and confidence because we also have a lot of wisdom at this point, and that's how I feel. I
Exactly.
feel like
Right.
there's a serenity to kind of.
Right. You have confidence that you've done that and you've been in the worst part, and it's okay. It sucks, but it's not like you can't take it anymore,
Right, you've gotten through it. You've been divorced. You've had breast cancer. We've
Right.
gone through a lot, and we've survived.
Well, I was going through divorce. I was a single mom for a long time, all by myself, without any family members. So if you can find resources and friends to support you in those moments, um, you could. And thinking about my mom and dad, they have absolutely nothing when they were bringing us up. So there's a lot more stress in their life. We all
Yeah,
have stress, but I hope it's not to say to ignore, it's to say trust that you can do it.
I really think so. So optimism, trust that you can do it. Try and eradicate fear. Yeah, have confidence in yourself. Have faith. This has been wonderful, May. Thank you so very much. Also, I have to say, I love your green nails. Your fingernails are green.
Oh,
They've been flashing on the screen, and they're so
yeah.
fabulous. I think
Well,
green is a
it's like a deeper jade green, and I just love green this year. I have
yeah.
a lot of green. I think it's the new black.
Jade green is the new
Jade
black.